Wedding season is just around the corner. So what are you doing to prepare yourself in the off season so that you're ready to take on another year's worth of weddings?
What are we doing to get ready for this season, Luke?
I feel like our priorities or what we focused on has changed a little bit from the end of one season. And then once you start getting into the new season, we sort of focus on different things. I think at the end of a season, we focus a lot on ourselves and our self-care because it's a lot. People can burn out pretty fast, especially because business itself relies a lot on marketing and networking and building a business. And then there's obviously the work side of it where you're shooting weddings, you're editing weddings, you're doing all of that stuff. And those combined can really burn you out at the end of a season. And then you have a couple months to just de-stress, but you also don't want to drop the ball and take too much of a break and then it affect your next season and the booking period that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, just because we've been off, quote unquote, not shooting weddings every weekend or shooting at all, really, like we haven't really shot that much, I would say, through the last couple of months. But the thing that has to happen is, all the other stuff that we probably didn't get to while we were so busy. So a lot of the things, even just from a personal side, like the social stuff that we have to do right through the holiday season.
I know, family, responsibilities.
And, things around the house that we probably put off for a long time that needed to get done. And then there's all the other stuff as well, where it's just like making sure that you're taking care of ourselves, right? I think that's been something that has definitely changed throughout the years. When we first started our business, did we really care about going to the gym or working out or like eating really healthy to take care of ourselves? No, it was probably the opposite.
It's because we were so young back then, 10 years ago. Think about that.
I know, but the thing is I think that as wedding professionals and people who work in this industry, it's actually it's really difficult on your mental health, on your physical health, and also just making sure that you're able to do all of those things in a way that feels good and quote unquote balanced, right? And then for us, throw kids in the mix. It's really like a fine balancing wheel that we're trying to manage at all times. I never would say that it ever really calms down. It's just like the priorities shift a little bit depending on where we are in the year. But for us to get ready for the season is really about, there's a couple of things that we do. And so we want to share about that today.
Yeah. So we'll talk about kind of that second half of our quote unquote break from weddings where we really gear up and look forward to the next season. Not so much how to decompress from the season before, but how do we prepare ourselves not only mentally, but also, look at our processes. How can we improve things, updating our website and doing all that back end stuff that you probably didn't do at all during wedding season.
Or not very much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with us and the business and the kids and summers, they're off school. So everyone has a busy summer. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're just hanging out with friends every day, like that's a busy summer, because we don't get to hang out with friends during the summer. And so all of that, but also your gear. So taking a look at what you could purchase to make it easier to do things or upgrade some of your gear or even just maintain the gear that you have.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to make sure that you're, keeping your gear in good working order. I like to go through and clean everything because I wear makeup. So whenever I put my camera to my face, I get makeup all over it. And so I like to go through and just clean everything and make sure the lenses are clean, even like removing, we have like covers on our lenses, just removing those and cleaning everything, making sure everything is good to go. Even my bag, like I was looking at my bag the other day and just the outside of my bag, because I've obviously dragged it through multiple scenarios of muddy, rainy, snow, whatever, and just cleaning the outside of that bag to make sure that's good. And then also replenishing everything that's in it, right? So if you have a lens cleaning kit in there, we were just talking about rain gear, making sure you have that in there and there's no holes in it, making sure we have batteries or maybe looking at the rechargeable batteries and seeing if we need to just upgrade them because, maybe they weren't doing so well at the end of the season. And then getting new memory cards, I think, is a really important thing for us because, we've been really lucky. We've only maybe had like 1 or 2 cards corrupt in our whole career, knock on wood. But it's always good to just buy new ones to make sure that they're running as smoothly as possible, because that stuff is always getting updated too, right? There's going to be newer,
true.
better, faster things. And then also just doing, like you said, the refresh in the behind the scenes of all the stuff that has to be done, like looking at social media, looking at our processes. I actually updated our questionnaires yesterday because I saw when one of the clients filled it out that I'm trying to stop using bridal party, and I'm trying to use wedding party instead to just be more inclusive. And I realized that I had bridal party still in one of my questionnaires, even though I swear I went through it with like a fine tooth comb. Those things just happen, right? Like it's so ingrained in me that it's harder for me to pick up on those things. So I saw that and I went and changed it right away so that hopefully nobody else sees it. But these are the little things that you don't really maybe notice throughout the whole season last year until you actually take the time to go through it and really finesse those things.
Yeah, that leads me to a point of, this is a period where you can really work on your business and not so much in your business. You're not an employee, but thinking more as a CEO, as an owner, and looking at just how easy it is for somebody to find your website, or how easy it is to get them to point A to point B. Even your initial like sales call, maybe look at the wording you use, or can you change it in a certain way? So it really gives you more of like a high level version, like whiteboard a bunch of ideas and try to implement them. And then, because once we get into wedding season, we really don't have a lot of capacity to think about those things or even to implement them, even if we were like, I'm going to do it this week. And you'll see that your week just blows up because other projects come, or the editing or whatever it is. And all it takes is really for you to be sick, or for any of your family to get sick, and it can really derail things.
We know that too well. And so that's another point that we wanted to make, is also taking care of yourself, and I would say we've been pretty consistent for the last 2 years. We're going on like a 3rd year of consistent, eating well or trying to eat well. We definitely go to McDonald's a lot less than we used to, and nothing against it. I love it. Don't think for a second that I don't love it, but we're trying to be mindful about, what we're putting into our bodies and taking care of ourselves by working out and doing some kind of movement, because a lot of our job, as much as we move around a lot on a wedding day, right? Like a 12-hour wedding day to me is like walk in the park, but sitting all week is really bad, right? Like our job is ultimately set up in a way that is like the absolute worst 2 things that you can do, because you're doing all these weird positions and you're holding heavy gear and you're holding it in weird ways. That's just not really great for your body.
You're either standing up for 12 hours or you're sitting down for 12 hours a day.
So taking care of your body by, getting massages, or, if you're into chiro, doing chiropractic things, and maybe even pre-booking that. I talked to another photographer last year, and she pre-booked massages for once a month throughout her whole season last year. And, if you do that type of stuff, it just kind of enforces that, like, you have to take care of yourself, right? And one of the things that we did last year too is we spent a lot of time with friends and family. So I think that was also different than when we first started. Like, we didn't really think about sort of refilling that cup, right? And a lot of that is by hanging out with our family and hanging out with our friends, and making a priority to do that. And as much as it's a lot, like, I won't lie to you, last year was a very busy year with our business, but also very busy socially as well. But I left that season feeling like really good and positive about everything. And I think I used to be of the mentality that in order to be good at my job, I needed to just like cut my social life and just focus on it. But in reality, it was probably a good thing that I focused on making sure that my social meter and my, filling up my cup, and like, we went out partying because that's what we really love doing, and like went to Montreal and partied with a bunch of our friends. And we did that a few times last year. And I mean, it really fueled us, I would say, for this season. And so it's just about trying to incorporate a little bit of that this year too, right? And this year we decided to also keep our kids home, which I'm not sure how that's going to go. We usually put them in camp, but we know it's going to be a little chaotic. But the reason why I wanted to keep them home mainly is because I want to spend time with them, right? Like, we have this job where we're at home, right? And we don't really get to see our kids much on the weekends. So I really want to, do better about spending a lot of time with them, creating some cool memories with them. We got a season pass to Calypso, which is a water park near us, and just like trying to build those memories, but also while still building our business.
And all that is in the field of self-care, right? So like you mentioned, pre-plan a lot of the events if you can, because then at least you're somewhat committing to them. And even though if the week shows up and you have something booked and you're like, wow, I really need to work on something, it might just remind you that you do need some of those things in order to balance it. It is a fine dance. It's a fine balance for sure. I guess we'll just find out what we're going to do with the kids all summer, but it's good. I think we've gotten to a point where we're allowing ourselves to do that because we shoot less weddings, but because we raised our price over the years, we make like the same amount of income to do less work. Well, less work. It's different type of work, right? If you're in this business for more than, 5 years, 10 years, who knows how long you can really take photos and videos, but it is a lot of stress on you. And if you injure yourself, that's a big, big loss in revenue if you can't shoot specific weddings and you have to like pay somebody or you just have to give the contract up. And our clients rely on us. Like there's a huge, huge amount of trust, and they kind of put all their eggs in one basket. If you're not there capturing their wedding, like they're screwed, And a lot of people love us for who we are and the vibe that we give. So part of our brand, part of our our image and our business is the fact that we're going to be healthy on your day. We're going to, bring the energy. It takes a lot of mentally to do what we do as well. So just keeping yourself in top shape is key, very key.
Yeah. And when we first started, especially when we were having kids and stuff, was our priority working out and eating healthy and no, it was like a convenience thing. And I feel like there's a period in most people's lives where that convenience thing is you're just trying to survive young kids, right? And I feel like we were very much into that. We were trying to build a business. We had young kids. We had the pandemic. There was just a lot of major things that happened to us all in a very short amount of time. And I wonder if that had been different if we were kind of prioritizing our mental health and prioritizing our physical health. And you know what I mean? The things that we've done now and shifted, how much more ahead I think we would have been if we had done that, 5 years ago. It's always interesting to look back, but I hope that if you're listening to this right now and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, there's no way I could look at adding, a 30-minute walk into my day or, switching out my McDonald's run for a homemade salad, right? How do you do that? Because you just don't have the time or the energy. You will have more when you start to do those things. And that's what I wish I had known a lot earlier in my career.
It's not something that you need to be okay, I'm walking and that's it. I'm going to spend this 30-minute walking. You can do it while listening to a podcast. You can do it while learning. You can brainstorm ideas. Everyone has a phone with them now, so you can just go on notes and write whatever it is that you're thinking about. You can journal. You can do some market research while you're doing it, especially if you're on a treadmill, then, you could look at websites, you can do even edit some work, right? Yeah. You can edit while doing it. So finding ways to combine both the work and the personal thing. Obviously, it's nice to be able to disconnect a little bit and not have to worry about working. But if you feel like you're falling behind or that you don't have time for something, try to incorporate a mix of the two so that at least you get something out of it.
Yeah, I notice right away if we ever, take a break from working out, which we do. And I notice right away that everything starts to suffer and you just get into the pattern of not doing it. And it's easier to just not do it. But we also have to sort of kick ourselves and say okay, I need to make this a priority. So I don't schedule meetings earlier than, 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. most days because we work out in the morning. And the reason we've been really successful at being able to work out as much as we have is because we weren't just saying yes to doing, a 9 a.m. meeting every day, right? Because we know that if we did that, we're probably not going to find any other time in the day to do a workout, right? Mm-hmm. And these are the types of things that can really make or break, like we know, because we've had we've had so many injuries over the years, right? Like even Luke right now, he plays hockey, he plays ball hockey. And one of our things is like, I'm always like, don't you injure yourself. Like, don't you get hit in the eye. Like, don't hurt your knee or anything, because like we need to be physically fit to be able to do what we do, right? And walk and do all these things and carry heavy things. Like, it's really difficult.
For us, the wedding season ends in November and then picks back up in like April, May. So once the new year rolls around, January, February, a lot of vendors are at that halfway point looking into the next year. And you see a lot of things like styled shoots starting to come out. A lot of people are doing networking meetings, lunches, especially us. We're right now in like the thick of networking and lunches. I think next week we have like 4 lunches out of the 5 days. And for us, it's a great way to connect with people. You can use a lot of the time in this off season to compress or condense a lot of the marketing and networking into a short period of time. Like I just said, we're meeting with a ton of people before our wedding season really kicks off next month. Oh, it's actually this month since we're in May.
It's gonna be May.
It's gonna be May. Yeah. I'm just saying that you should use a lot of this time off that you have in order to network with people, because in the industry, everyone's off. There's not a lot of weddings happening in the off season. Depending on where you live, the off season is very different. But use that opportunity to connect with people and really build that network, because especially in this industry, and probably in a lot of industries, referrals is a huge part of our business.
Yeah. To be honest with you, like before I found, like I used to network with all kinds of people, but you can also be strategic in who you're networking with, in the sense of like maybe you're just putting more time into the people that have been referring you, right?
That's true.
And so for me, I find that there's benefit in obviously meeting new people, right? Like networking that way, but there's also a lot of benefit in kind of reestablishing those relationships, or really kind of, growing those relationships that you've had in the past, and then looking at them and saying, hey, you know what, like I'd love to meet you on a regular basis. And I think that's something that we really want to push this year, is just like, hey, can we just get together once a month? Like let's figure out a time where we can just get together once a month and like, let's talk about our business, right? Like let's just make it very focused. Let's connect, because sometimes we do get so wrapped up in everything. So pre-scheduling some sort of, like predetermined networking that you can do.
There's a theme with a lot of our stuff, and it's plan ahead.
Yeah, plan ahead. And, pre-scheduling things and blocking time is so important, right? Because again, talking about that refueling yourself and refilling that cup in the weeds of the wedding season. Let's talk like in August. I'll never forget clients being like, oh, like September must slow down for you. And like anybody in the wedding industry, especially around here, knows that like August is like the calm before the storm, which is September and October. And even for us, sometimes November, right? Where it's just like, we're still going until the end of November. And it's the same this year. Our fall is very heavy and very busy, but it's also a very busy time of year for us, like personally, right? Our kids going back to school and figuring all that out, and, dealing with new teachers and going to like school events and all that kind of stuff, right? Like there's just a lot going on. Plus, the fall is also really busy for people who want to get engaged and want to, meet with us potentially, and also want to do engagement photos, and then family photos. Like it's a crazy time of year, right? And so if you already have pre-planned to meet with these people who are like-minded with you, in the sense of they're always looking to grow their business, they're looking to make changes or improvements, or looking for some insight and ideas. If you're meeting with them regularly, you're refueling that cup. Like I call it refueling, but like refilling that cup, in the sense of you're making sure that, okay, you're taking some time to really like sit back and sit with your business and take that time to really understand, okay, is this really working for me? Or, oh, like that's a really cool idea. I never thought about that, right?
That's my favorite part about networking, is everyone brings either situations they've been in and how they handled it, or we even try to discuss it as a group. Here's a problem that I'm facing. What's your experience? What's your experience? What's your experience? And also, it's just nice to be able to talk to them about new tools that they use as well, right?
and so candidly, right? Like, I think there's a difference, right? Like, we all know those people where you talk to and you're like, hey, like, how's life? How's work? Like, it's just like surface talk. That's one of our themes that Luke and I always say, like, oh, how was so-and-so? And you're like, we just surface talk the whole time. Talked about the weather, talked about the kids, talked about, whatever. But we really didn't get into the weeds of things. And so having people that you can talk about things that are really just not going well for you, and how you navigate that, or what they would do differently, or, just learning from other people is really, really important.
For example, we had a wedding venue in Ottawa close their doors recently. And one of the reasons we think it happened because there was no good support system for them. Maybe they were struggling in some aspects and they just didn't have anyone they could talk to about that. So having that network is really important.
Yeah. And so I think aligning yourselves with people who are, like-minded when it comes to that stuff. And for us, what we found is it's not necessarily people who are exactly doing what we do. Like, it's not other photographers that we're just, networking with solely. It's other professionals, right, who are running a business that's maybe in the same industry, but we're still doing different roles and doing different things. And we can really bring value to each other in that way, because it's like, they're not really our competition, if that makes sense. And as much as I believe in community over competition, and I'm an open book, like, there is that aspect, right? There's always that bias that's sitting there. If you're sitting across from somebody who may be competing for the same clients, like, it's hard to just be like, hey, you know what, this is how I do things, right? Like, you're not as open that way. And
it's like, this is the reason why they didn't book me. And then this person's like, well, perfect, because I do the opposite of you. So obviously, we'd make a better connection. But there's definitely some things you can learn from each other without, compromising.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is that there's always going to be that level of like, how do I share too much or not enough, right? And I feel like in our group anyways, like, there isn't that. So finding your people is really important, I think, too. And scheduling out some time, as you come into this wedding season, really, obviously connecting with new people if you think that that's worthwhile, but also just really
like fostering
the ones that you have, or maybe ones that you haven't seen in a little while, right? Like, I feel like through the pandemic, a lot of people lost touch, right? Like, I know that people that I talked to before, I'm not as close with because we just lost touch. Everything changed. Like, people got busy and yeah, we just kind of lost touch. And so it's like, okay, let's put the effort in to the people we think that are really going to be beneficial as well, and reconnect and rekindle.
And it changes season per season. You may work with a lot with one vendor one season and then not at all the next, right? It's very dependent on what the clients book and referrals, and even like some venues. You may not even see a specific venue for years and then you show back up a few years later. So yeah, being strategic with that specifically. But again, maybe that's another goal that you can like pre-plan, the once a month, but also give yourself another goal on top of it is like, if there's specific venues that you want to shoot at, maybe you go and offer them something for free so that you can boost your portfolio that way, or, offer them headshots for their team, or whatever you can do in the off season to, again, because we're photo and video people, like, we create content and everyone needs content. So we're a good friend to have, right? and it's funny because we're of the mind that we have to go out and we're networking. And, but I feel like I'd love a little reciprocation, somebody coming up to us and being like, I'd love to work with you and network with you and get to know you. It doesn't happen often with us.
Well, I mean, think about when we first started, right? Like, when I first started, I remember going to social outings and just feeling like, oh my gosh, like, that's so-and-so. I've seen them on the internet. And, you're just like intimidated a little bit. So maybe that's it. Right. But anyways, let's put it out there. Full disclosure. Promise we're not that intimidating.
Yeah. Reach out to us, guys. Like, I want to hear from you.
Yeah. Like, we want to connect. Like, we'd love to connect with more people, but it's hard, right? Like, again, as a creative person, sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of an introvertedness that comes with that.
Very much so.
And but anyways, definitely do it. Reach out. Worst they're going to say is no. Right?
Yeah.
And same with us. Worst we're going to say is no, to be honest.
It's part of the business. Like, you kind of have to be a social butterfly when it allows to be, so that you can create that network, because it's so powerful.
And people are going to say no. And I think that's the one thing that is hard, right? Like you're gonna get no's. And I think that's probably the biggest barrier to entry when it comes to networking is it's like, oh, they probably won't meet with me. They wouldn't want to talk to me. I'm nobody,
You're like
right?
self-sabotage into not even asking.
Yeah. So, just being brave and asking or just like connect with them, right? Like maybe you don't ever connect with them in the DMs, but maybe you comment on their stories or you comment on their reels.
Yeah, warm them
or
up a little bit.
yeah, just like their stuff and like share it or, that kind of stuff. Like those are always good ways to kind of connect with people.
We talked a lot about different things that you can do and continue through the wedding season, but where are you going to find the time to do all of those things on top of a busy wedding season is finding tools that are going to help you, either automation or AI. AI has been a hot topic this year, and I think it's only the beginning of it. But we'd love to talk about a couple tools that we currently implement and then some that we're thinking about doing.
Yeah. And the first one definitely has to be like a CRM system. So I think it's relationship management system.
Correct, yeah.
Shout out to Honeybook. We've been using them for a really long time. We have a workflow system set up in there. So one of the main things that we do is we have it automated and we tell all of our clients it's automated because it's based on when their wedding is. So a lot of we wouldn't want to just like mass send everybody like questionnaires in January because it's like, okay, everybody for 2024, fill out this questionnaire for your season. But like they're getting married in November, right? Like it just like, it's almost a year away. It doesn't really make sense. So the way we have our workflow system set up is for it to be, based on their wedding date and it kind of goes backwards from there. Yeah. And that has saved us so much time. I mean, it would be crazy to kind of calculate how much time it's probably saved us. And then the other thing that we also love to use is a Calendly or like an automated booking system. So as part of that workflow, if one of the things that clients get to have with us is a timeline meeting and an engagement session if they book that. And we actually have a calendar booking system where they can automatically go in and book the time as well. So we're not doing this back and forth like, oh, are you available Friday, May, whatever at this time? Like, no. And then like going back and forth, there's none of that, right? It's just straight up, here's the calendar, here's our availability, and here's an automated process. So you're going to get all of the questionnaires, all of the emails that you need to get. And it's all going to come in the timing that makes sense, that we've sort of realized through the years that really made sense for clients based on their wedding date. And so that in itself has saved us so much time. And for years now, we've also had editors that saved us. It's not that we don't do any editing, but we do a smaller portion, I would say, of the editing than we used to do when we first started. So if you're doing like 20 plus weddings a year and you're doing this on your own, I don't see why you wouldn't want to have an editor, right? Especially if you have kids or you want to be able to do anything else. It's giving you that freedom that you can either take on more weddings, right? Which is going to give you more income if that's what you want to do. And it's also going to give you some time back to be able to do these things, right? Like take care of yourself, network with other people, take some time with your friends and family, right? Like all of these tools are really there to help, make your job this is a job, a lot easier. And we've implemented them from the very beginning, and I'm so glad that we have. But I would want to hear from you in terms of AI in the sense of like, even making what we have now even better than what we're currently doing.
Oh, you're letting me talk?
A little bit.
Yeah, you're like a tool. And then it brought me to the next, another tool, and then another tool. I was like, I'm going to have nothing left to say here. Mm-hmm. Well, you left me the best for last, the AI. It's evolving every single day, but we use it in a couple different ways. We've recently learned about AI editing or culling for the photography, where it would just like pick the best images out of a gallery. As you can imagine, we come back with thousands of images after a wedding. And it's Bethany's least favorite thing to do is to review all the images, because it's not like looking at the images is a nightmare or anything like that. Like it's beautiful photos, but when you have to pick like the best one because you took 5 of the same photo, and sometimes it's like, if a computer could do it, it would be much easier, right? To at least boil it down so that you can do some fine tuning in the end. So using a bit of AI, and it kind of builds on the editor. One of the reasons why somebody may not have an editor is it can be expensive. So with new AI tools coming out, way less cost on the editing side or even going through your photos. The AI for video editing isn't quite there yet. Like it can't like build a video for me, but there's definitely some tools now that are synchronizing like all the audio and all the clips to be, you know, based on the time that they were shot or whatever it is. So it's easy to organize your files in that sense. So you're saving time on the video side that way. But the AI can be used in different ways, like how to write a blog post and using ChatGPT to do research and do different wording, or, you know, there's a lot of things that AI can do with the right prompts. And if you're afraid of AI and don't really know how to use it, it's kind of like any other skill where you need to start practicing it, because you may find like giving a certain prompt can give you a very, very different answer and a different vibe to what you're trying to do. So getting as much time in front of the AI doing different things is definitely going to help you save time. And like even your calendar, like I've seen lots of ads for like AI manages my whole calendar. Like if something gets canceled, it like shifts everything for priorities to be remade. Obviously the calendar doesn't tell you that you have to do that work. You know, it's still up to you to do a lot of the work. But it definitely helps you, you know, take the guessing game out of it. I think a lot of people just get roadblocked with the first thing and they're like, I'm overwhelmed, there's too many things. And then they just shut down. Exhibit A.
Me. I get overwhelmed easily.
And sometimes we just need that little push. And AI is just a great tool. There's lots of different stuff you can do with it. And it just gets you like over the hump so that you can take some time to focus on what really matters.
Yeah. And I think what we've used it a lot for is like, obviously you could just be like, write me a blog about this, you know, and it will spit something out that it pulls from, I don't know, thousands of websites that exist to do that. But what we really love using it is like, we'll write what we want to talk about, and then we'll have AI just kind of refine it a little bit more. So it's still refining what we're saying, like in our words and the way that we speak and the ideas that we have, but it's just doing it in a way that I feel like it does a really good job. Like I'm not a great writer, and it does a really great job of just, you know, refining that, what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, you can do it on the flip side too. You can have it like write stuff and then you take that information and make it in your own words.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't want to do either the research or they just don't know where to start. So it's a good foundation, and then you can work that way, as opposed to if you're good, well, if you know what you want to talk about and your like sentence structure just sucks, or you use too many of this specific word, like the same, like amazing.
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it'll at least just change that into other words.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the source. What is it? What's like a word that it describes the same word?
Isn't it a thesaurus?
Yeah, but that's the tool that you use. Oh, a synonym?
Yeah.
Synonym.
Yeah. But I really do think, you know, just on the topic of AI is that this is the beginning. And I feel like it's one of those things where if you're not like embracing the internet, like it's like, if you don't embrace it, you're going to get left behind. It's kind of like the idea of like digital cameras, right? Like, cool, those film photographers are like, no, film is for life. Like, you know, look at them now, right? Like film is kind of coming back and being cool, but it's still not 100%. Like there's not a lot of photographers that are doing 100% film on a wedding day because of costs and time and all that stuff. What I kind of compare AI to is like the start of the internet, right? So it's at the beginning stages. We're in the dial-up stage right now. If you can imagine like what that's like.
If you guys remember dial-up.
Even for a dial-up moment that they're having right now, it's still really incredible. And it's making our job as creatives who have to run a business and put on so many different hats, right? Like how many hats do we wear to run this business? It's unlimited amounts, right? Like we have to be all these types of things. And really what a lot of creatives have done to kind of get into this is not wanting to do all those things. Like nobody really wants to do taxes unless you're an accountant, I guess. And nobody really wants to do, you know, like chores and all those things, or update your website or do SEO or, you know, edit photos or cull images. Like, to be honest with you, I just want to take the photos and hang out with the people. Like if I could just think and simplify about what I want to do, that's it. That's all I want to do. I want to hang out with the people and I want to take the photos. I really don't want to do anything else. So if AI is going to make that easier, i.e. somebody that can come and like fold the laundry and do the laundry in our house and put it away, that would be awesome.
That person's called Luke.
No, but you know what I mean? Like something that will help make our lives easier. Like I'm all for it. So
Yeah, I hear you on that one. I think that's why a lot of people want to do the wedding photography. Like some people love it because they get to do some of the editing and they can be really creative in that sense. And maybe like if that's what you're really good at, then being like a full-time editor might be something that's for you. But when you're editing like other people's work, again, it could be different. If you had like an AI, a robot take photos and like you could just edit it yourself, that would be super cool. But like you said, yeah, we love, the atmosphere of being at the weddings and taking the photos and videos. And what if you could just be like processing and then like, here are your beautiful photos, and like, I didn't have to do all that back work. And then you can go home, hang out with your kids, like, have a beer outside, mowing the lawn, whatever it is. I mean,
now they have robots that can mow the lawn
That's true.
do all that,
they
right?
do.
I mean, do we have to put a little beer on it? Because it, like it drinks a beer while it cuts the lawn. But like,
they wouldn't have to. It's a robot. It's very efficient.
But those are the types of things where it's like, I'm excited for it, to be honest with you. I mean, we already have a robot vacuum and I think it's the best thing ever. So I really do believe that this is just the beginning. Like we're really going to get to a place, like I hope that'll just make our lives so much easier and hopefully get to the point where we can just do what we want to do, which is create and, connect with people. That's really what I want to be doing more of and less of the stuff that we have to do.
Yeah, we talked about AI a lot just there, but it is part of making time for yourself and being able to set up all those other goals like the self-care and the networking, and to continue that through the season is super important. A lot of people just drop off the face of the earth on social media and all the other platforms. Like it can really consume you if you're a single business owner, especially in the wedding industry, and it's like wedding season and you're busy, you're pretty much just gone. And so this tool hopefully allows you to get some of your time back and focus on other aspects, even just focus on yourself, right?
Yeah.
And pre-plan things. And then making sure that you're just looking at your equipment. We talked about it a little bit, but for me, I use a lot of like tripods and little things with screws. So it's funny, I actually went through one of my lenses, the 7200 that we had for years and years and years, and it was starting to feel a little bit loose. So I had to go and I found that like the tiniest little screw on the side was loose. And so just making sure that like all your little gadgets and gizmos have tightened, and like you said, like screen wipes on your lenses and like everything just works, because even if something's been in storage for a few months, like pull it out and make sure that like the legs extend, because like what if it just jammed and your first time that you figure this out is at a wedding, and you just don't want that happening.
I really don't believe in just like constantly buying new gear because we have really good stuff, but I think there's certain things that you need to sort of invest in to make sure that everything is running smoothly on a day. And so looking at that, I think, is really important, and looking back and saying, okay, can I make this easier? Like we talked about the rechargeable batteries or whatever. Maybe it's even like, my flashes that I have are 9 years old. Like they're the same flashes that I got years and years ago. They still work really well, but maybe they've paid their dues and it's time for me to upgrade, right? So it's not like mid-season and I have to like figure out finding flashes like in a rush because I need them for the next weekend and these ones died or whatever. So looking at your equipment as a whole in that sense is really important to make sure that like it's going to last you through the season as well.
And then not only looking at new equipment or maintaining your equipment, but if you have equipment that's just been laying there for a while, maybe selling the equipment is something that you can do as well, because you can always take that additional income, and, buying a new piece of gear is very expensive in our industry. And it might just make you feel better about buying it if you can recoup some of that cost by selling some of your older stuff.
So are you going to take that advice though? Because Luke has never sold a single thing that he has ever bought. So just putting that out there. He's given this advice, but he better start taking it.
It's okay. I'll just cut this part of the podcast. It's true. I am a photography, videography gear hoarder.
Yep.
And it's probably time that I take some of my own medicine and sell some of this stuff. But you guys over there, you guys sell your stuff. That's what's important.
I'm going to keep you accountable. Please keep him accountable. But there's a lot of people that love gear, so I think I'm the weird one when it comes to this. I feel like a lot of other people just want like the newest, best stuff. So, but I don't want to because it's expensive. And I think that, it's only getting more expensive. So to me, yeah, selling your old stuff if you're not using it. I mean, how many backup cameras do you need? Like we have a lot that would just sit literally on these shelves and never go anywhere anymore. And they're great as like a backup for maybe my second shooter, but I shouldn't have to carry all of those things, right? So to me,
the ones we have over here are not even backups to second shooters. They're like, we already have backups somewhere else, and these are like props. Yeah, they're paperweights at this point.
Very expensive paperweights. So yes, selling your stuff I think is really important so you can buy new things.
The off season is a really good chance to also go back and connect with some of the clients that you shot the previous year and maybe try to upsell them on some albums, some prints, different things like that. Like I know around Christmas time, we always do a Black Friday sale, but you can also just go back and be like, hey, you know what? I loved your wedding and I think you would really appreciate like this album. You can even help them design it or design them a sample album or give them like a discount code, whatever it is. But it's a good way to just reconnect with them and just remind them that you're there, because a lot of people that get married end up having babies or having families or being top of mind for people that you've worked with and fostering that relationship. We talked about, creating new ones and fostering old ones, but those are also people that are like your little warriors that are going to recommend you to everyone that they talk to. So just keep putting in the time with them and make a bit of extra money on the side as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And we use an automation one, again, to save time. And it only really came available on the system that we use last year. And I'm really glad because I used to do all the album design myself, but it takes a lot of time, right? So this is something you could just easily send in an email blast or post on social media that people can go in and create things themselves. But I think that, that's definitely another way to sort of create some buzz around it. And also just telling couples like, hey, this is something that I do offer, right? True. So potential couples or couples that are coming up this year will be like, oh, okay, they're going to talk about albums or whatever. They're reminding me, or we have that option, right? And it's just like or if they're building like a signing guest book or something, like they could create that, but use your website instead of going to like Costco or something.
You should now feel ready to take on the next season. We gave you lots of tips and tricks about what you should do in the off season, how you can leverage some of the tools that we talked about in order to create space so that you can do some self-care, so that you can do some networking, so that you can just be social and have a life. Because it is very easy to get all wrapped up in a business, any kind of business really, but especially in the wedding industry when wedding season is happening. That's when a lot of people are going to be social. And when you're telling them all no to everything that they ask you to do, come at the end of the season, you're like, hey, do you want to hang out? They're like, well, we don't really know you anymore. You've disappeared.
I mean, most of our people know that that's what's going on, but yeah, the biggest thing is try to plan out a couple of things, try to make your life easier by using some of the tools that are available to you, and take care of yourself. I think like if you were to categorize what's like most important, like if you had to put percentages on things, like making your life easier and taking care of yourself should be like 50% of this job, right? Like, so automating things, trying to figure out ways to make your life easier, even if it costs money, it's totally worthwhile because you're going to save so much time and be able to sort of focus in on yourself and your family and all the other things that, should matter to you, right? Yeah. Because this is a short life, right? We only get one life.
And even if it like costs money, you have to think of it of like you spending money to free up time, and that time is worth money because time is money. I don't know. It's a famous phrase that's been around for a while, but if time is money, then obviously like you need to value, okay, if this tool or this person I hire will save me time, you can always like reinvest that time into growing the part of your business that you actually want to work towards, or use it for like the self-care and social thing. But yeah, tools, time, AI, all that stuff, good stuff.
Thanks for watching. Listening.
Looking back at me, turning heads with their flash. Wedding photographers capturing love in a flash. Taking shots like paparazzi, they're a dynamic duo. Posing couples like models on their love they bestow. Shooting weddings, they got the perfect frame. Look behind the lens while Bethany brings the flame. Capturing every moment, they never miss a beat. Freezing time, making memories that are oh so sweet.